Well, it's a sign of the season. Even before the leaves change, in most years, we start to see the campaign signs popping up in yards and empty lots. It is election time, and most ballots have already been finalized and may be heading off to the printer soon. Yet for the city of Ketchum, that has taken a few extra steps to get here, a snip, snap kind of thing. But voters now know who will be their candidates for mayor. And there seemed to be a question of residency for one of them, which has led to a question of the current state election law. Joe Paris got the answer from the state's election chief.
Back on the ballot, an Idaho judge ruled that a previously disqualified candidate for Ketchum Mayor can once again seek the office. Questions about Pete Prekeges and his residence are rooted in an intricate Idaho law.
A few years ago, the legislature passed a new law, and it's a requirement for candidates running for office.
Secretary of State Phil McGrain is Idaho's top election official.
In essence, what it says is if you have a homeowner's exemption and you're claiming that as your home, that means that's your home. And you can only run for office from wherever you're claiming that tax exemption.
Homeowners can lessen their tax burden with the common exemption, and it's one lawmakers decided in recent years should also hold weight.
If you're claiming that's your home for tax purposes and you're getting that tax benefit, that means that's your residence for running for office. And there's numerous incidents that came up over time where someone might run from one place but claim a homeowner's exemption somewhere else.
The exemption is an annual filing, but what happens if life changes? A court has now played that out on the municipal level for the first time.
You had a homeowner's exemption being claimed in Haley while residents being claimed in Ketchum. And what you saw here earlier this week was really the court trying to sort out what the rules are. And it's worth noting, and this is really where the court went, is city elections are different than many of the other elections because city elections have some of their own rules. And the court's finding was that rule doesn't apply here specifically to city elections.
Idaho code covers those city elections in a solo section. In terms of residency, it basically says that there are other circumstances related to a person that need to be taken into account, like business pursuits in an area, employment, income sources, their residence for their income or other tax pursuits, as well as the residence of their parents, spouse, or children, and any lease that they have.
When lawmakers are working on these bills, often the finer details don't always come up because you don't see them until they happen. One of the biggest challenges is the tax commission, the county assessors who manage the homeowner's exemption and do taxes. They really work on an annual basis. And there isn't a statewide database with all this information. It's kind of being built through this process.
McGrain says there are already discussions about creating an intermixed system to combine worlds that might have not been intended to interact.
How can we work on a system that will give us as election officials the tools we need, but also still not interfere with the actual tax exemption process the way it's intended to operate?
So, to the root of this, again, a recent law on the topic.
I can say for sure there is some cleanup needed. The question is, how in the weeds do we get legislatively?
The election is coming up, and there's always something fun and quirky to talk about.
I think, one of the most interesting things, certainly the profile of the mayor's race in Ketchum has been highlighted way more than it ever was going to be before. So there's a lot of people following this story. I can say there's a couple of other instances around the state that have been worked out on this too. And we're doing everything we can to support the clerks. Ballots go out tomorrow, some of the first absentee ballots. And so the election is underway, and we hope people will vote here on November 4th.
So a question moving forward for Idaho lawmakers and the communities at whole, Brian, will be, should city or municipal elections have their own set of rules within Idaho code, or should everything be kind of uniform? So I saw a question related to this story that said, well, hold on, does this happen with state lawmakers? And the answer is no, because that's not a municipal election. They have that state law according to the tax exemption.
Who wrote this state law?
It was written by a coalition of Republicans. I believe that it was the Speaker, Mike Moyle, that was a part of this push. And kind of as they were talking about taxes and the impact of it, there was this push that if you're going to claim this house as your primary residence, that should be where you're doing your voting.
Were they told this could be a problem, though?
There was conversations about, possibly what could happen with this, but until it plays out, as the Secretary of State highlighted, this is the first time in the election cycle, the 4-year election cycle, that it would have come up. But there were at the time some questions about how could this play out in terms of people that have multiple properties or where they rent.
Okay, so it's happened a couple of times. So it's happened a couple of times this section. All right, or this election cycle. All right, thanks, Joe.